I like you better.
If I can ask the Attorney General a question too.
Sure.
Your memo and release yesterday on Jeffrey Epstein, it left some lingering mysteries. One of the biggest ones is whether he ever worked for a American or foreign intelligence agency. The former Labor Secretary, who was Miami U.S. Attorney Alex Costa, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of the step?
Yeah, sure. If I
Could I just interrupt for
Sure.
1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're...
I can't believe after we said we were going to release all of the Epstein files and all of the influencers we gave some redacted documents from the Epstein files to, said that there was nothing in it, but we would release more. And then we released 10 hours of surveillance footage from not Jeffrey Epstein's jail cell, but close to it, and then happened to have a minute cut out from the video. I can't believe when I made the campaign promise to release all the Epstein files that we're still talking about it, when the stuff I released was half-aid.
Having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
Sure. First, to back up on that, in February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because...
This, by the way, is why we have today the introduction of a brand new Pam Bondi in action figure. Take a look at it. Pam Bondi in action figure. It's on my desk.
Because I said, I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that. Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Child porn is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day. To him being an agent, I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that. And the minute missing from the video, we released the video showing definitively the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide.
The video that we released to show that Epstein did not kill himself is not conclusive. Sorry about that. It's all the stuff we didn't give you that says he killed himself. Trust us, bro.
And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night. And that's it on Epstein.
Guys, listen. We have these things called surveillance cameras, and they surveil 24/7. Except for 1 minute of the day.
Mr. President, on the tariffs again, August 1st, you said it is the deadline. What incentives do countries have to negotiate? It seems that
So take a look at some of this. Here's somebody, Adam Corcoran, who says, the first red flag is that the footage exists at all, which he's right about. So we'll heart the post, because we were told the following right before COVID. Jeffrey Epstein, oops, we actually don't have the jail footage because it was deleted by accident. You know, we overwrote the footage. We don't have it. There's no footage. Nobody has footage. There is no Jeffrey Epstein footage. Oops. And now apparently we have footage of, here's the upper tier, top of the staircase footage supposedly of that green camera angle pointing towards Jeffrey Epstein's cell. But it was deleted, and now it's back. Okay? We know from the original reports that most of the cameras were not recording that day, except the one in the stairwell. By the way, most of the cameras just even though they're 24/7 surveillance in a jail cell, they just, if they were recording, or if they were on, they just weren't recording. Sorry, it's old technology. But we frequently had conflicting stories about which footage still exists. To suddenly have 10 hours released is odd. Multiple entrances. As I watched the video, I noticed people enter from the right-hand side of the lower level. As it turns out, door 46 leads to floor 10. Both the primary and secondary SHU 9 entrances are on the lower level. So this person's basically trying to map together the various different images of the shells here, or of the cells. This means it's easy to enter and go up the staircase to the L tier, keeping to the right of the staircase and not be seen. In other words, you could essentially walk under the camera, for example. For example, here's a screenshot we'll talk about later of two people rushing up the stairs, and you could barely see them. Okay. All right, so then we've got post 6 out of 25, lockdown time. The next oddity is the lockdown time, according to the official reports. All inmates were locked in cells around 8 p.m. That becomes a problem when you've got inmates visible on camera at 8:23. So yeah, I mean, here you could see 8:23 p.m. and you see an inmate over here wandering around. So much for lockdown time. Persons unknown. We then have a series of people move through the building that are not recorded, and the original report where basically these people didn't exist. The first two are likely not suspicious, but are not covered in the reports of people who essentially visited the cell. First one takes place at 7:28 when a black corrections officer receives a paper that was slipped under door 46. At first I assumed it was a material handler from the reports, but he didn't start his shift until midnight, so I assume this may be an evening watch officer who is in charge. Kind of showing up, and there's a little slip of paper under the door. The next oddity is the man who leaves through the door 46 at midnight. Unlike everyone else who carefully closes the security door, he flung it wide open, left it open, and had to return to close it. Given the experience and timestamp, this could be a material handler. Okay, so here's someone basically who leaves the door wide open and then forgets that apparently you have to close the door. Okay. Next person we'll call Hat Man. Seems to do laundry service. Throws out linen bags in the hall and brings in new ones. But there is a problem. Hat Man doesn't leave the linens and go back out the door. He first pushes the empty garbage can a bit to the right, obstructing the view of the downstairs. You can kind of see the garbage can's a little to the left railings there. Now it's a little bit to the right. He then walks down to the lower level with the fresh linens out of view to the right-hand side. All right. That one, you know, we're going to move the garbage can to obstruct the camera idea. That one might be a little bit of a stretch, but let's keep going here. This is the first time in the video we've seen that someone could enter and exit from the lower level as Hatman isn't seen again. That's true. But you could also reach the L stairs out of view. Also true. So in other words, this camera footage that we're getting isn't comprehensive at all. Lastly, we've got these two characters, one collecting reports, but the second person wearing a black hoodie with the hood up, leaves for 20 minutes and returns with no record. Oh, look. Wow. A black hoodie person appearing and entering. Huh. Probably nothing to see here. When did Epstein get locked down? The next problem of when Epstein was in his cell. The initial report tells us that he was allowed to make an unscheduled phone call at 7 p.m., which lasted until 7:19. He was taken back to his cell. Okay. However, later the same report said that he was housed between 10:40 p.m. and 6:30 a.m. when he was found. And that time kept coming up in another statement, said no one checked on Epstein since 10:40. I mean, I suppose that seems fine, given that this is a 7 p.m. call, but okay. But it was today's FBI press release that I think made a big mistake. It said he was locked in his jail cell around 10:40 p.m., which was weird because all the inmates were supposedly locked down sometime after 8 p.m. with no record of other treatment. Yeah, but this could also be like, you know, if he was locked in at 8, he was supposed to have been also locked in at any time after that. The original release's statement claims that in this video, the reason we start at 7:40 is because the gray-haired man is supposedly Epstein being walked to his cell. So what happens at 10:40? Oh, in other words, that supposedly he was locked down at 7:40. Well, he could have also have been locked down at 10:40. I think this might be a little bit of a nothing burger, unless we get some more here. It's incredibly hard to see, but if you look at these frames one by one, you'll start to see empty stairs, orange blur on the side, sort of like a little shoulder or something over there, more visible orange sleeve. 10:39, for unknown reasons, Epstein was out of his cell. I think that's a little hard to say based on that little edge over there. The guard station that the officer sat at was close to Epstein's cell, so the guards could carefully monitor him. In fact, it was the only cell where the guards had direct line of sight and could easily monitor movement in. So this is the idea here of Epstein's cell door in an officer station. All right. Despite this, guards claimed to not have done their rounds or checked on him and to have fallen asleep at their desks for hours. Problem is, there isn't any multi-hour span in which they weren't seen walking around. So in other words, the guards were seen walking around at various times and not asleep for hours. Finding Epstein. They found Epstein at 6:30 a.m. when food delivery arrived. The food delivery makes it upstairs to the cell without ever appearing on camera, showing how useless this angle is. They found Epstein was hung using an excessive amount of linens, right? Because this looks like a scene from somebody who kills themselves. Which, mind you, you know, when you get the autopsy, or you look at sort of the autopsy photographs of Epstein, the damage to his throat, which we're not going to show here, doesn't exactly look like a suicidal style of damage. It looks like someone choking him out. Note how he didn't use the electrical wire from the 2 CPAP machines in the room, but instead apparently used a small single rip of cloth to hang himself from in the middle of bed, and also somehow not happen to knock over the pill bottle when he was hanging there. Aha. And perhaps most curious of all, when the crime scenes and the phones were taken in a prison that's known for disrepair, nearly all of the railings were painted black, except for J tier, which isn't in the video. But in our video, L tier, the railing is unpainted, suggesting either this camera is not positioned where the report claims, or the crime scene photos weren't taken at the same time, or for some reason, while doing a high-profile murder case in a prison that is set to be shut down, they painted the railings. Oopsies! No matter what you make of it, here's what we know. The FBI claimed no one approached his cell block, and that's wrong. 5 or 6 people visibly were near those stairs that night and could have been seen up without being on camera. Both entrances to the cell block were out of the view. There are multiple conflicting times. Some prisoner is out of his cell at 10:40 with no record. Officers claimed to be asleep, but apparently weren't. We saw the linens, the pill bottle. No prisoners claimed to hear commotion, yet apparently Epstein hung himself on a single shred of linens. For some reason, one of the officers looks at one of the working cameras on at least 3 occasions that night. And then obviously there's this idea that the cameras failed to record, yet all of a sudden now we get 10 hours of footage. I don't know about you, but it seems pretty sus. And so it kind of makes sense why you're getting Elon Musk somewhat freaking out over the Epstein files, because this was a campaign promise of the Trump administration to release the Epstein files. And Elon Musk is now suggesting that a priority or top priority of the America Party is going to be finding and releasing all of the Epstein files. Mind you, Trump has also been accused by Elon Musk of being in the Epstein files. And Elon Musk says things like, how can people be expected to have faith in Trump if he won't release the Epstein files? And then, will exposing the Epstein files rank high on the America Party's list? 100 emoji. Elon also says that Steve Bannon is in the Epstein files. So Elon's doing a great job at interjecting himself into politics and making sure that the world knows he's no longer friends with Donald Trump. Somehow, magically, Tesla is still maintaining this 295 line. But let's see what some of your comments are here in the chat on all of this. Trump donated to Bondi's PAC in 2013, and Trump criticized that back then. This is somebody writing this. Prior to that, Bondi had received at least 22 fraud complaints regarding Trump University. What else do we have here? Next statement. Who is Jeffrey Epstein? Was the guy even ever born? Oh, as if Trump just totally forgets that the person exists at all. Yeah, it doesn't look good that Trump is kind of just washing his hands of this. I get it. Like, as president, like, you want to focus on going forward and tariffs and the issues of the day. But it was a campaign promise. All the Epstein files would get released. That was a campaign promise. So were, some of the things in the big, beautiful bill. So there's sort of this selective application of which promises matter. Let's see what else some of y'all are saying. I believe the maintenance schedule. My cameras reset every day, but don't have lapse of 1 minute. Not even 1 second of footage is scheduled. Yeah, so it is possible that cameras are set to a restart function. And the rationale here is kind of like a computer. You restart it every day. Not all CCTV cameras are programmed for that. And it does seem odd that, you would... Let's put it this way. In a prison, reset cameras maybe all at the same time around this 1 minute window without having overlapping views. That's usually what you do. You have overlapping views and you reset them at staggered intervals. So you don't have blind spots like this. Also, mind you, Bondi's claiming that these cameras are 1990s technology. Typically, you only see these restart functions implemented in newer, like PTZ cameras with motors and servos that, benefit from a little bit of a restart. A fixed position, vandal-resistant CCTV camera typically doesn't need to be restarted on a daily basis. So I guess it's possible, but it doesn't seem likely in my opinion. Somebody writes, LMFAO, black hoodie person, not suspicious at all. Not suspicious enough to show up in the official report, apparently. And keep in mind, if you did have a, 1 minute reset period, people would know that the cameras turn off at that time. Certainly, employees or staff or whatever. So, LOL, they already paid the painters that day. Clown show. Yup. Somebody writes Jeffrey Epstein equals John Doe. Yeah. What a mess. Nobody knows a big mess more than Donnie T. Anyway, that's enough about Epstein, but it is pretty...
Why not advertise these things that you told us here? I feel like nobody else knows about this.
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber. Meet Kevin. Always great to get your take.